December 1986, it's freezing in Almaty. Thousands of young Kazakh students fill Brezhnev Square and holding banners, shouting one word: justice. What started as a peaceful student protest soon turned out to be one of the most defining events of modern Kazakhstan, the Zheltoksan uprising. But what truly lay behind those days? Was it a clash between generations, a fight for national dignity, or another struggle inside the Communist Party? Let's find out.
The official Soviet line called it a hooligan outburst, but for many Kazakhs, Zheltoksan became the moment when the idea of national independence was reborn.
The first theory sees Zheltoksan as a generational conflict, as the youth of the 1980s had grew up with new ideas like perestroika, glasnost, and reform, as they believed in openness and justice. When Moscow replaced Muhammad Kunayev, a respected Kazakh leader, with Gennady Kolbin, an outsider from Russia, it symbolized a generational and cultural disconnect. Students felt their voices were ignored by an aging and distant party elite. These were not anti-Soviet radicals, these were young people demanding respect, representation and dignity, the voices of the young generation facing an old system.
But many historians argue that Zheltoksan went deeper than Yav frustration. It was a awakening of national consciousness.
After decades of Russification, the sudden dismissal of Kunayev touched a national nerve. Students carried banners with slogans like Kazakhstan for Kazakhs and freedom, words unheard since the Alash movement. Writers like Mukhtar Shakhanov later described Zheltoksan as a cry of the nation's soul, the first spark of independence that would later ignite in 1991.
There's also another layer, the inter-party struggle for power. Some scholars argue Zheltoksan wasn't just grassroots, but also elite tension within the Communist Party itself. The appointment of Kolbin wasn't random, it reflected the center's fear of regional autonomy. The protests revealed not just youth anger, but the deep fractures inside the Soviet leadership itself. Party elites in Moscow saw Kazakhstan as a test case for loyalty. The harsh crackdown showed how fragile the control had become. So Zheltoksan could be seen as both a symbol of national awakening and a symptom of political decay inside the Soviet system.
Western historians like Marta Prill-Olcott see Zheltoksan as a clear sign of emerging nationalism,
while others, like Soviet-era analysts, describe it as a local reaction to a personal policy, not as a political statement.
But when we look at primary sources, interviews, photographs, court documents, we see real national emotion.
Our conclusion? Zheltoksan was born from all three forces: a new generation frustration, national desire for respect, and aging power system collapsing under its own weight.
Zheltoksan was not the end of the Soviet Union.
But it was the beginning of something new.
A generation found its voice,
A nation rediscovered its spirit.
and history began to shift from obedience to independence.